You know, if there's one thing that's really bothered me about the NBA community as a whole is the fact that a lot of fans don't give their players or teams time to grow. I mean, look at the past two NBA seasons so far. We've had two great guards come to the league in both Anthony Edwards and Jalen Green. And halfway through their rookie season, people are already marking them off because they were playing some inefficient basketball at the time. And then what do you know, now they're viewed as probably two of the next great scorers the NBA has seen in a minute. So it's safe to say that the league has a instant gratification problem, and right now a player that's really been hit with this so far in his rookie season is Jabari Smith Jr. Because if you look at his first 10 games, it wasn't the prettiest basketball in the world. 10 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, a little bit under an assist, a block per game on 30% shooting and 30% from 3. Not the greatest numbers in the world, and the efficiency was god awful. And a lot of the problems people saw coming into the draft were just the most glaring parts of his game. He was a tweener on defense. Nobody knew if he could be a rim deterrent or a point of attack defender. And on offense, him not being able to create his own shot was kind of being shown because he looked like he was trying to prove something in the earlier parts of his career without giving himself time to grow. And on the team with Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr., I thought it'd been a perfect place for him to go, since one, he was a defensive-minded player coming in, and he wouldn't have to create his own shot. He already seemed like a pretty sound spot-up shooter, so that could be the main part of his game that can help these two grow and become a unit when you add Alperen Sengun in there, and so on and so forth. But in the first 10 games, his defense, he was used more of a rim deterrent, and that wasn't the best place for him. He was getting a good amount of blocks per game, but as you can see, there's plays here where he's trying to draw charges when there's guards coming at him. He just didn't really look like that fit him. But after that 10 game mark for him, things started to change a little bit. The efficiency got better, and so did the numbers overall. Before I get started, hi, I'm FLB. I make basketball content on YouTube, and we've been picking up some traction, and I'm no stranger to Houston Rockets content. In fact, a couple Houston Rockets videos are still in some of, I think, top 10 to top 20 videos on this channel. So if you like any other Houston Rockets content, you can go check out those. A couple other people like them, or you can hit that like and subscribe button and hit that notification bell for any time I do upload. Maybe it's another video on this team, because I do still plan to follow it pretty heavily for the rest of the season. So let's get into this video. Since his 10th game in the NBA, in the past 20, he's been averaging 12.8 points, 7.8 rebounds, a block per game, half a steal per game, on 42% shooting and 37% from 3. Now, the numbers, counting stats aren't crazy better, and the efficiency is still lacking a little bit, but it's still a lot better and more what you expect from a rookie coming in. But the thing that really puts him in a level that I don't think a lot of people realize is just how good of a defender he is. Because on the court at all times, even though the numbers don't look ridiculous and there's not really any counting defensive stat that really separates him right now, since the Houston Rockets overall are still a bad defensive team and he's part of those numbers, he's going to get hit with those numbers. But him himself has been, whenever you watch him, you can tell the mild difference it is on defense versus the other players on the court, and he normally looks like probably the best Houston Rocket on the court sometimes, or at least the guy with probably the most IQ. And that was shown in their December 11th game against the Milwaukee Bucks, where he only scored 6 points and he was 1 for 9 shooting, but he held Giannis to about 4 for 13 shooting, and Giannis only had 16 points overall in the entire game. And it showed his impact was way more outside of his scoring, since he also got 10 rebounds overall, and he left that game with the highest plus minus of any single Houston Rockets player with a plus 13, even though Jalen Green shot a very efficient 30-point game, and Kevin Porter Jr. added 18 on pretty good efficiency also. It just shows that his impact isn't always going to be in the numbers, but as time goes on, the numbers come with what else he brings as intangibles. And right now, on a young team that really doesn't have an identity, you love to have a guy that's already hard-nosed and already looking to be a great defender and takes pride in that end, because that type of attitude normally, you know, spreads to the rest of the team, especially for a guy that's supposed to be a focal point and a franchise piece as a number 2 pick on this roster. Yes, I think that type of attitude is perfect to have for the guys that are going to be around him, because let's face it, Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green have the ability and the athleticism to be pretty passable defenders at least, and they're not at that level yet. So having him here with that type of attitude is definitely something you need to kind of balance that out. And if he's able to develop some level of self-creation to his game, because right now his offense game revolves around him cutting pick and rolls, spot up shooting or rim dribble pull-ups, you real sense of self playmake or self-creation he does have in his game right now is when he has mismatches against guards sometimes, and he either rises up above them or he uses his size against them. But he does have the length and he's very wiry. He has a nice touch on his shot, so if he does develop some self-creation, that would be a huge addition to this roster, and I think he has a very bright future on this team. And while the Houston Rockets seem to find himself in a little bit of a rut now, earlier in the season, about a couple games, there were about a stretch where they went 4-3. They looked like a competent basketball team, and he was the largest part of the reason why they look so competent on that end. 14 points per game, 8 rebounds, almost a steal in the block per game on 48% shooting and 41% from 3 in that 7-game stretch. Now I know that's a pretty small sample size to pick out of a season that's not even done yet, but it just shows that as he does grow, he gives you spurts of showing just how good he can be once he keeps up this level of play. But I love this Houston Rockets roster. While their players definitely do have their flaws, the positives really do outweigh a lot of the flaws for the future, at least. Alperen Sengun, even, you know, the size is not where you really want it sometimes, and on the defensive end, it's not anything crazy, and he really can't shoot outside of like 17 feet, but he has a nice touch around the rim, great playmaking ability, especially some interior passing too. He's a great pick and roll partner for either Kevin Porter Jr. or Jalen Green, and then you have those two. The point guard experiment with Kevin Porter Jr. is going okay, I guess. I mean, I wasn't expecting to see Chris Paul out there, and he isn't doing anything that's wildly bad, but he's also isn't, you know, opening your eyes crazy. So he's doing some pretty nice thing there. Jalen Green, the playmaking seems to be coming along a little bit, and while he still does seem to be a little bit not under control on the offensive end, because he takes a lot of bad shots, let's be real here, but again, the offensive and scoring ability just jumps off you at the page with him specifically, and I think later in this season you probably see him go on another scoring run like you did see him go last year. Overall, they also have guys like Tariq Eason that's been great for them, and whose impact doesn't even show up on the paper, but he's a great Swiss Army knife that can defend, score, shoot the ball, all of that. Yeah, I like this Houston Rockets roster, and Jabari Smith Jr. is going to be one of the biggest parts of why this team is going to be great in the next like 3 or 4 years. Maybe even earlier than that, depending on, you know, what they do in free agency and who they move around, and if they're able to snag any real star to accelerate this process a little bit, or whoever comes in the draft this year. But let me know you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think of this Houston Rockets roster? But that being said, this FLB, that's my time, and I'm out.